Wayne Songy and his family have been around for a long time. They would be considered, in my opinion, a legacy real estate group in St. Tammany Parish, particularly in Slidell. And being a legacy family, it's incredible how people are able to establish standards and create a way of doing business across generations. And in this conversation with Wayne Songy, he talks about how his dad and his family came through not only as educators in this community, but real estate professionals. Really interesting story, and I hope you enjoy. Stay tuned for Wayne Songy and the Songy Associates. All right, well, welcome to the show. We've got Mr. Wayne Songy.
Wayne Butch Songy.
You're not the second, right? Are you the second?
I'm the second.
You're
I'm
the
a
second.
junior.
He's official. He's got the 2 marks behind his name. It's official.
There you go.
And you're also second generation within your organization, from what I can tell, from what we've been talking about and what I know about you. Because I think I first heard about y'all from Real Estate Investors Group and just being around the industry and hearing, because like getting in with the real estate investor community in this town, there's not a lot of people who are managing properties and working with investors at a high level often, right? There's a lot of real estate agents that do mostly residential work here, and then there's a small pocket of agents that deal with both the residential and the not a commercial stuff, but like the single family residential investor world, right? And your family's been doing that for a long time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about
Since right when you were born, I think is what we just established.
35 years to be exact. So let's talk about how your dad got into the business and how you got into the business.
Okay. Interesting story. So my dad's been in real estate for 55 years. Okay. And he still has his active license for this year. He's actually retiring next year.
Oh, wow.
We're already planning his
Blowout party.
How old
party.
is he?
Exactly. So 55 years he's been doing it. He was doing it for 20 years before he decided to branch out on his own. My father ran a few of the largest companies on the South Shore. At one time, he was in charge of over 700 agents. So
Oh, wow.
it was kind of crazy. And he grew offices, expanded, then they would get bought out. And he just got tired of growing and
Well,
seeing it
managing
happen,
people
so-
will make you want to leave.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he said, I wasn't even doing real estate. He goes, I was a
Yeah.
psychiatrist. I was financial advisor. I was everything
Yes.
to all these agents. It was crazy. And it was also a different time. This was before internet, before your cell phones and everything. I mean, people were in the office working. That's just, the business has changed so much. But so cut to that. So my dad did that for a while, grew it, got tired of doing that without actually reaping the benefits for himself. And he decided to branch on his own. He took his one office manager from his favorite office, and he took one agent with him when he decided to do this on his own. It was a huge leap of faith in 1990. And from there, we've grown. Then he had, some moments where obviously the real estate market does this. So, you lose a few agents. And but I think in my dad's heyday, he had probably 8 or 9 agents. And right now we're right at 20. Nice. So,
Wow.
yeah, so it's been a fun ride. But I mean, I've been around with him the whole time. But he actually has always been in sales. My dad, one of his favorite stories to tell is he was actually selling copiers, Xerox machines back then, and he actually sold one to a bar. And that was one of his biggest things. He sold a copy machine
I need to know.
to a bar. It is the crazy. He convinced the bartender that because of his receipts and everything else he was printing, it would be a lot easier if he just had a copy machine. And my dad sold
legend.
copy
He's a
machine to
legend.
He could have sold anything at that point, yes. And
He needs a
then
book.
he got into real estate because he could just see that
He could
that
sell
was
anything.
something- He could sell anything, anything, anywhere, any condition, and that's it. And the rest is history, kind of.
Well, it's funny
Very
because
cool.
some of the most successful real estate agents, there's 2 of them that I know off the top of my head that started selling yellow pages. And like, it's hard to sell, phone books to people, and obviously this is back in the day, but also the same way Xerox and copy machines, like learning how to sell something like that and then getting into something that everybody needs, everybody wants. I can imagine that you probably feel like you could sell anything if you can sell a phone book or a Xerox machine, and houses would probably be something that would be easier to sell, in my opinion.
Well, my dad always saw that people will always need a place to live.
Yeah, of course.
Whether they're renting, they're buying, they're selling, whatever it is, doesn't matter what the market does, people need to live somewhere. So I
Right.
think he just kind of saw the writing on the wall back then and did it.
I
And
say that's the simplicity of business. You find a need and you fill it and do it at a reasonable price. Business
That's it.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so again, from the first time I heard about y'all's company was on the property management side. So when did y'all get into property management and real estate investor community?
That was what my dad, when he decided he was going to branch out on his own, he decided to start and do property management. Very, very few companies were doing it back then. And my dad, it's kind of funny to call my dad a visionary because right now he has problems working a cell phone, but yet he was a visionary.
Probably
at
not
that
seeing
time.
too great either, huh?
Yeah. But he saw that was a service that was needed, and he started doing property management 35 years ago.
That's entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Again, seeing a need.
Yeah.
Love that.
And also doing that in St. Tammany Parish for such a long period of time. 35 years ago, this not only was the real estate industry different. I wasn't here, but
So the world was very different.
well, when I say it that
Then
way,
Jared arrived.
I'm from Alexandria is more what I meant.
PG, post Jared.
There you go. I wasn't here in St. Tammany Parish. I grew up in Alexandria, but I've heard stories about how much this town has developed over the last 35 years, and Slidell and the parish have developed over the last 35 years. So, as the whole industry and this region has shifted, how has your family grown into the area?
Well, our family was originally from Metairie.
Okay.
My dad was born and raised in New Orleans, actually on Dublin Street, off of River Road, off of Carrollton, very close in that area. Yeah. And he grew up there, went to high school at Fort High School, briefly went into the service. Then he basically got into sales, got married, got into sales, started having kids. And we just started there. And my wife and I were the first ones to, they always call us the defectors. We defected from the South Shore and moved to the North Shore because at the time, my wife and I, we were young when we got married, and affordability, it was much better deal in Slidell than it was to try to buy a house in Metairie at the time. So we defected, and then everybody followed. My dad, my mom, my sisters, everybody moved to the North Shore.
It's such a great place. It's like a vacuum. Just sucks you in, and you just love it.
It is unbelievable. It is. It really is. And we've been in Mandeville now for about 4.5 years. We were in Slidell for 29 years. So Slidell still has a huge place in my heart. I mean, that's where we're from. And when we came over here, I was the first one, like I said, to come over. My dad was doing some business on the North Shore, but then once I came over, and then once he moved over, then we started to do more over here. Now, predominantly, a lot of our business is over here. Although we still have management and clients on the South Shore, we are mostly a North Shore-based company.
Gosh, I was going to ask that question. So y'all still do some property management on the South Shore. So y'all's geographic.
And in Mississippi. I'm a broker in Mississippi, too. So I saw a need there because Slidell, as you know, is right there on the cusp of the state line in Mississippi. And once I got into this business, every year I was missing out on a few deals a year. And I'm like, I need to just do this. So as soon as I got my license in Mississippi and my broker's license, the phone started ringing. Yeah. So now we're actually managing a few properties over there, looking to grow that because my daughter Grace is getting her license, my youngest one we talked about earlier. And she lives in Mississippi. So we're talking about doing like a satellite office there for her.
Very nice. And so if you were gonna describe your business to somebody who's never heard of it before, and what kind of sets y'all apart from other local real estate brokerages?
We are a family. Our company is a family. I know all of our agents. I know their kids. They know us. And where the bigger companies, they don't have that kind of personal touch that we have. And whenever we do take on an agent, they've got to have our core values at heart. I mean, our company is more than just a company. To me, it's a legacy. My father started this. He's been around forever. Anyone who's been in real estate for years knows my father, and he's got an amazing reputation. And I pride myself on keeping that tradition alive. So I'm not taking on anybody that will not represent me or my father the way we want to be represented.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what
I
sets
love
us
that.
apart.
I mean, it's almost like in the industry, there's such a low barrier of entry, right? And so it's just like, who wants to sell? All right, come on over. Like there's an element of certain companies operating in that manner. So it's nice to see that you're upholding the standard and picking the right people to be part of the organization.
And we've had to turn away people. I've interviewed a couple people over the last few years, and I could just see it was not going to be, a very good fit for us. Because that's my biggest concern is that I know somebody is representing Wayne Songy Associates the way Wayne Songy would represent Wayne Songy Associates. That is
well, the name
important.
is still attached to it. I think there's a beauty behind that, right? A lot of law firms are like that. We are not. We get asked all the time, like, whose last name is Arena? Like, nobody. Check out this quote. But I think there's a beauty to it because it has that heightened level of standard that you want attached to it because it can tarnish it very easily.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's interesting how the few groups of companies that have stayed generationally and stuck together and made it. Gardner was one of them that I still was around for a long time, and there was a very close tie between the parents in those companies, and the values that the parents had were passed on to the kids, and they lived those values as well. And I think that there's definitely correlation between the story you're telling me and the story I've heard from Mr. Glenn and his family before he passed away about how the family was really close knit. Like they spent a lot of time together, and all of the family members were a part of the group as they grew, and then the values were apparent. Like you don't necessarily talk about the values all the time, but the family lived the values, and it sounds like that's how y'all operate within y'all's organization too.
Yeah, we always will. I mean, my kids have the same values. So, and it's great that I have two. Well, one of my daughters is already in it. Grace is getting her license, and my son-in-law Ethan is in it. So, and my son Hayden has talked about it, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. But no, I mean, all of my kids, I couldn't be prouder of anything in this world than my kids, and they have the same values Stephanie and I do. My dad does. So I know the company will be in good hands when that time comes.
Yeah.
Such a good feeling.
That's great.
It is.
We talked to so
It
many
is.
people that have no business succession planning in mind, and you're just like, we're just going to keep rolling with this legacy. It's just a simple beauty to it.
Yeah. And so let's just get into like a little bit of the intricacies of how y'all operate within the different areas of your business. So like what does an ideal client look like from the property management side?
An ideal client. There really is no, I mean, we have some owners that have multiple properties with us. We have some first-time investors. I had a lady that reached out to me. I taught her granddaughter years ago. She's deciding she wants to get into this because her mother passed a house on to her. She inherited. She didn't really know what to do with it. She wanted to hold on to the house to give it to her kids as, you know, some kind of income, passive income to them later on. So every investor is different. You never know who you're going to get. So an ideal investor is anybody who really has no idea what they're doing with property management, because there's a lot of people who think they can do it, and then they realize how hard it is. They don't realize the time that's involved in marketing the home, getting a tenant, making sure that tenant pays on time. Because what happens is a lot of people who try to manage property on their own, they get to know their tenants, and tenants, again, will, I don't want to say manipulate, but they know how to, you know, create that relationship with an owner and then say, oh, this month the rent's going to be a little short, I had a car repair, or my kids need braces, whatever the case may be. And you need to keep it professional. That's where we come in. Mm-hmm. We are that professional line, and we don't want to hear the sob stories. We just make sure the rent is paid for the owners. Now, again, we also are, like during COVID, okay, there were a lot of people who couldn't pay the rent back then. Okay, well, Stephanie and I, we got on board and we were doing our research, and we found programs to help tenants that couldn't pay their rent so that they were getting the money during that COVID, the COVID assistance, whatever you want to call it back then. But so we only had to evict 2 people out of our entire portfolio for not paying rent once the ban was lifted. So we were really out there working for our owners, making sure their rent was getting paid. And
I love that.
Well, that's great. And supporting the community.
Going the extra mile.
Yeah, people were definitely struggling at that point.
Yep.
That's great. I mean, I think a lot of people that we network with, at least, there's a lot of real estate agents out there trying to buy and sell houses for people, but having the ability to also manage properties is a big deal. And I'm sure that's that's a great lead generator for you too, right? From the, you know, as a broker, as an agent, being able to also help your investors buy and sell.
Find many times an investor at one point or another is going to sell the property that we were managing for them. Mm-hmm. So they will reach out to us because they've been satisfied with our services. They'll let us handle that for them. So it's been a great system that we have going on with the management. I love it.
How often are you recommending people do a 1031 exchange when they sell those properties?
Again, it depends on
The situation.
But yeah. I mean, most of the time, you don't want to pay those taxes. I mean, you want to try to roll it into another property.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do have investors that do that.
Cool.
For sure.